Hello, everyone. What a gift it is to be here tonight. And it's a gift to be alive. And I'm so grateful to be alive. I love being alive. It's my favorite. And I'm just so grateful for the people in my life and all of my teachers and mentors and my family members. And, my mother always taught me all my relatives, so she always said that we're all related and we're all relatives. And today, I've been thinking about, what would happen if we allowed miracles to happen? Like I've been thinking about all of the miracles that are in my daily life. Like I have so many incredible people in my life that are miracles. Two of them are staying with me now, and I love them so much. And they're amazing, and they bring so much love and grace and beauty into my life. And so, I think about hospitality. I think about, are we hospitable? Do we welcome other people into our home, into our heart, into our lives? As I was thinking about this, I was thinking also about love instead of fear. Like, can I choose love over fear, or can I explore fear if fear is what is there? And can I acknowledge fear and say to fear, hi, I see you, and I'm grateful you're here, and you must have something to tell me or you wouldn't be here. And to ask the fear for its gifts, its lessons, its knowledge. But one of the things that there's a poem where it says, don't do what the fear wants you to. Don't do what the fear wants you to. And so I wonder about that. And I wonder about what we'd do if we did instead what the love told us to, if we could find our love, right? Like, where is it? Where is our love anyway, and all of the elements and blessings of love. And the elements of love are things like gratitude and thankfulness and generosity and welcoming, joy, forgiveness. There's so many different elements to love, and it's such a complex thing. Love is so complicated. It's just complex and beautiful and fragile and difficult, and it's not easy to learn another person. It's not easy to learn ourselves. And so how can we act from places of love instead of from places of fear? It's hard work to do that. But I believe that we can. And I believe that even if we're not confident in doing it, that we can learn how to do it, that we can learn how to act from those places of generosity and consideration and acknowledgement. But I think it also requires something that we don't always like, which is, it means we have to change ourselves and change our own minds sometimes. But there's this incredible book that I love. It's called The Rag and Bone Shop of the Heart. And it's a poetry anthology. And the editors are Robert Bly, James Hillman, and Michael Mead. So getting real. A ritual to read to each other. And this is a poem by William Stafford from this anthology. It says, if you don't know the kind of person I am, and I don't know the kind of person you are, a pattern that others made may prevail in the world. And following the wrong God home, we may miss our star. For there is many a small betrayal in the mind, a shrug that lets the fragile sequence break, sending with shouts the horrible errors of childhood storming out to play through the broken dike. And as elephants parade holding each elephant's tail, but if one wanders, the circus won't find the park. I call it cruel and maybe the root of all cruelty, to know what occurs, but not to recognize the fact. And so I appeal to a voice, to something shadowy, a remote, important region in all who talk. Though we could fool each other, we should consider, lest the parade of our mutual life get lost in the dark. For it is important that awake people be awake, or a breaking line may discourage them back to sleep. The signals we give, yes or no or maybe, should be clear. The darkness around us is deep. The darkness around us is deep. And that's William Stafford. And so, how are we holding each other, and how are we finding our way, and how are we not pushing each other, but also how are we not holding back? Like, how do I not push and how do I not hold back is I think one of the keys to being able to act from a place of love and being able to maintain our curiosity with one another and our love with and for one another. And love is so good, and in its goodness, it's also sometimes so hard, and sometimes it's so delightful, but it's always a gift, and it needs to always be seen as a gift. And I think that one of the things we do sometimes is that we will test it, like we'll test each other's love, we'll test one another's love, or we'll test someone else's, or this testing thing, and when I think about testing, I think it's important that we don't test love, that love is a gift and that we receive it as a gift as best we can. Now, sometimes we have fears, as I was talking about earlier. And so what do I do with a fear? So if I have a fear, what I can do is there's a tradition where they say when they have a negative thought or image, they recognize that it's a fear. And what they'll say in some traditions is they will say, dismiss that story, dismiss that story, dismiss that story, or I'm going to delete that story. I like kind of modern ways of saying, like, delete that story, delete that story, delete that story. And how can we bring in a better story? And what's the story? So how can we let go of the fear story, or the fear that we can make smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller? Because what's true is that, if we look at where we are and what we're doing and how we are, we're probably fine. Most of us, 90% of us watching this video, are probably fine. And if we're not, then we have the opportunity to have some comfort, or to find some love for ourselves, or to find some way to connect with something greater than ourselves, like our higher power, or someone who can really help us, which is the Great Spirit. So we have an opportunity to maybe access a form or a reminder to pray and to ask for help, or to ask for love to help us. It's not even that it's Great Spirit or Creator or Wakan. What is Wakan? It's really what is love, and how can that love help me, and how can I turn toward that love and ask that love for help to make more love within me and more love within my life. And so I think about this ability that we have to then go and to have a positive image, or an image of something that will really be a blessing, or that will create more love in our lives and more love in the world. And I have people, you guys, that I've been waiting a lifetime to meet. And I had the opportunity to speak with one of them today, and that was such a blessing for me. And I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity just to hear a voice that I've been waiting to meet for such a long time. And so I like that I heard that voice, and that I'll hear that voice again, and I feel assured of that. And that we have this opportunity really to touch voices, to touch hearts. And I am so grateful for the opportunity that we have to create a sanctuary for one another through our voices, through our actions, and through our love. So things that I would ask myself now there's several things that I would ask myself. One of them is, how can I acknowledge the fear, talk to the fear, find out what the fear wants me to know, and then act on what is most loving and caring about myself, my community, other people. And so it's an act of, it's an act of self-love and self-respect, but it's also an act of love and respect for other. It's an act of love and respect for family, for friends, for community. I really like what John O'Donohue said in one of his books. He said, that what if we only met one or two people in our entire lives? What if we only met one or two people for our whole lives, our entire lives? And when I think about that, it's like, how would you want to approach them? And what would you do to prepare to approach them? And so I feel like I have been in my life preparing to meet these people as though I was only going to meet one or two people in my lifetime. Fortunately, I have many beautiful people around me that I love dearly and deeply. But then there are those yearnings and longings and wonderings. And we all have those, and hopefully we can meet them in a way that is a blessing and that will allow miracles to happen. And so I'm going to read it, the Nest Pantum. This is called it's a Pantum. And it says, don't be motionless too long. The world is breathing the frost away. How the particles move in the clouds as they are released. No one is released from love. The world is breathing the frost away. The moisture is released without salt. No one is released from love. It is a sanctuary of constant recovery. The moisture is released without salt. The memory surrenders its victims. It is a sanctuary of constant recovery, how the small bird lifts its wings. The memory surrenders its victims. We've begun our nesting deep within the winter. It is a sanctuary of constant recovery. It is a sanctuary of constant recovery. Don't be motionless too long. Don't be motionless too long. Nest Pantum, and that is from Honey Collections, which is newly out. So don't be motionless too long. I'll make sure that we can recognize the miracle that we are to one another, the miracle that we are in the world, and just like, wow, like the amazing, all of the things that happen to bring us all to this world at the same time. And maybe we didn't like all of the things that happened, and maybe we don't even like all of the people that were brought to the world at the same time, but here we are, and it is a miracle, and it is a miracle of trust and a miracle of faith, and it is an interesting story, a very interesting story that we've been brought here together. So I would just ask that we would be able to act from love and to notice when we're not, and to have a conversation with ourselves when we're not, and then to not push, but also to not hold back, like to be in our full expression. Not everybody can handle all of the love, and so we have to kind of meet one another where we're at, but can we do that in a way that is respectful and that carries a deep honoring of each other and all that we're here to learn from each other. I cherish you, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much.